that the ministry has got to reduce the impact of climate change, especially the burning of fossil fuel, as a result of the acquisition of almost 400 locomotives, 335 the wagons themselves. Mr. Speaker, this hasn't got any real controversies, just to say that the ministry need to work hard to be able to utilize this. We are told within 18 months these items will be in the country. Some of the colleagues have been asking if all these things turn up by the end of, or maybe sometime next year, majority of them will be in the country. What are we going to do with majority of them? Because the projection is that even the ongoing rail projects have a gestation period between their 2 years, except for the Mampakadan. The rest are all going to be things that will be completed in 2022, 23, thereabout. So what exactly are we going to do with this huge number of items we are buying? Perhaps the ministry will be able to help explain this. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I encourage colleagues to support this, except to say that we need more clarity in a strategic way as to how this benefits us beyond what we are going to do. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the comment.
Thank you very much, Honourable. Yes, Honourable. You and then him.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is no doubt that our country is lagging behind in terms of railway infrastructure. And therefore, every effort to develop the railway infrastructure of this country needs to be supported. And that is why I believe we will want to support any effort to acquire infrastructure for the development of our rail sector. Mr. Speaker, like many of the sectors of this country, we have not taken advantage of the process of innovating and building local content into the development of the infrastructure with a long-term objective to building local capabilities. And that is why I want to recommend to the Railway Ministry that as we make this big push towards the development of the railway sector, we should also look at how alongside that we should be developing local capability in terms of the building of the infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, there are more complex components of the technology and there are simpler components of the technology. For instance, the coaches. The coaches are not too technical in terms of the construction. And so whilst we may not be able to construct the locomotives here, we may not be able to construct the machines for the lines here, but some components of the coaches, we could structure the agreement in such a way that those parts can be done locally. And once we build that capability, we could expand the service to the sub-region, and Ghana could begin, like we're trying to do in the automobile industry, to build local capability in terms of the railway sector, and that perhaps can be the motivation to further expand the sector. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I think also that we should be innovative in financing the infrastructure. A railway line is like the highway, the roads that we have constructed. Once you construct the roads, it may not be the best to buy the buses and buy the trucks and etc. You may want to also consider constructing the roads and then leasing out the use of the lines to the private sector. They invest their money in the construction of the coaches and the purchase of the locomotives, and then use the lines based on some licensing regime. And very often they are more franchising. Very often they are more efficient and capable in managing. We've seen in the past where we have approved huge loans, purchased such facilities, and in a few years you go and then you see that the machines are lying there, not maintained, the lines are not maintained, and yet the public is burdened with the payment of these facilities and loans. And therefore we must be a little more innovative in financing some of these infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, I'm also quite not too to be cautious. Your committee, I believe, in recommending to us that we approve these facilities, must do some level of due diligence in terms of costing. I know that it is subject to the facility going through, the procurement going through Public Procurement Authority. But then also, as a house, sometimes it would be good to at least have a sense of the cost of a wagon, the cost of a locomotive. But nothing like that happens to be done by our committees. We approve and say Public Procurement Authority should go ahead and then do what they have to do. But we as a parliament have some interest in knowing that there's value for money in terms of the amount of money we are loaning and then the cost of the facilities that we are going to purchase with that money. Mr. Speaker, that being said, I have no doubt that we all support any effort to improve the railway sector, except to say that you don't put the cart before the horse. My colleague has indicated the number of lines that we have completed relative to the number of wagons and locomotives that we are purchasing. It seems that the wagons and locomotives may come and there may not be enough lines for them. So why do we want to procure all this when the lines are not yet fully completed? And that is something that we need some explanation. On that note, Mr. Speaker, I'll join my colleagues in supporting the procurement of this facility for the development of the railway sector. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Yes, Honourable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the motion. Mr. Speaker, to alert the peers of the House, I wish to state that the engines that we are procuring at this time are improved versions of the ones of the past, and these are modern diesel engines. And to run at the speed of 160 kilometers per hour. So this is quite different from the one we know, which is running at maximum 60 kilometers per hour. So these are modern diesel engines. Also, the fear that it's only Tema in Pakadan line is under construction. Let me correct that notion by saying that the Western line that starts from Takrady onward to Kumasi is far advanced in construction. We've gone past Kujukrum, Manfi, and we are heading towards Takwat now. There is currently also a contract being negotiated for continuation of the line from Takwat to Dunkwa and onward to Obuasi. And quite recently, President also commissioned the construction of Kumasi-Obuasi line. So it's not only the Tema and Pakadan line that the construction, for which reason we are procuring this quantity of rolling stock. Mr. Speaker, in terms of local content, in this contract, there's a provision for the construction of a workshop to rehabilitate and also to service the equipment that we are procuring. And indeed, even before that, we have, as a ministry, finished the construction of the railway school, which is affiliated to the Parkland University of Mines and Technology. And therefore, we're building local capacity to be able to feed into the industry request for human resource. Mr. Speaker, there is also concern of multiple use of the land, of the lines by even private sector companies who procure some rolling stock. Mr. Speaker, we are considering seriously the development of some of the lines also on a BOT basis, and also we are considering licensing some local and private interest into the procurement of rolling stock for the provision of the rail transportation service to clients. Mr. Speaker, as your committee has indicated, there was thorough due diligence done on the procurement process. And Mr. Speaker, the company, Danfang, is one of the most established rolling stock manufacturing companies, even in China, and they have a track record to that. And Mr. Speaker, a due diligence report was filed in the ministry, and Mr. Speaker, it is tied to this report. Mr. Speaker, all of us appreciate the importance of railway in our transportation system in the country. And Mr. Speaker, we are not the old-fashioned railway. We are doing a standard gauge line that is consistent with the West African policy, transport policy of providing railway across the sub-region. Mr. Speaker, the contract was signed on July 9, 2019, subject to approvals by the Public Procurement Authority, the Ministry of Finance approval, and executive approval by the Government of Ghana, and approval by this House, and agreement on the bills of quantities by the parties in the contract. Mr. Speaker, as your committee has affirmed, they have visited the company, they have assessed its competence and capacity to deliver on this procurement. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of this motion.
Honourable members, at the conclusion of the debate, all those in favour of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is duly adopted. Resolution. Honourable Minister. Honourable Minister, it's okay.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the resolution listed as item 9 on this order paper be adopted now. I so move.
Yes, Honourable.
Honourable Speaker, I second the motion.
Thank you very much. The resolution has been moved and seconded. All those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Resolution duly adopted. Yes.
Mr. Speaker,
Acting Leader.
we may take item listed 9, the procedural motion. 10, Mr. Speaker, sorry, we may take listed 10, the procedural motion.
Item listed 10. Motion. Chairman of the committee.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move motion number 10 on page 5 on other paper today. I so move.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
This is a procedural motion. All those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is duly adopted. Now to the substantive, please. Chairman of the committee.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the motion numbered 11 on page 6. Now, I want the answer to capture the whole report as has been read by entirety. In so doing, I will just read the observation and the conclusion. Mr. Speaker, the committee noted that to secure timely commencement of the project and the part of the industry practices, the employer shall make an advance payment in the amount of 20% in euros equal to 20% of the contract price. The advance payment, which shall be paid in a single installment, would only be paid upon receipt of the performance security and the guarantee in amount as in euros equal to the advance payment. Mr. Speaker, it was also instructive to know that to protect the interests of the employer, the advance payment guarantee shall be issued by a reputable bank in a format approved by the employer. Furthermore, the advance payment committee shall be gradually reduced pro rata in accordance with every interim payment certificate issued to the employer. Mr. Speaker, the committee considers the insertion of this important industrial practice as part of the measures to demand performance on the part of the contractor and also secure employers' interests. The committee is therefore hopeful that will be strict adhered to in the provisions. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, having regards to the enormous benefits to be derived from the implementation of the project, particularly increased stability and adequacy of supply of potable water to the people of the project area, the committee recommends to the House adopt in report and approve by resolution the commercial agreement between the Government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, and Ghana Water Company Limited, and the LR Group for an amount of €133,332,500 for the Sunyani Water Expansion Project, Phase 1, in accordance with Article 185 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. As reported, submit.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Honorable member for that.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by the Chairman of the Works and Housing Committee, and also to make the following comment. Mr. Speaker, yesterday when we were taking the facility agreement, we were made aware that this is just money for Phase 1, which is the 133 million euros. The Chairman talked about the advance payment guarantee, which has been pegged at 20%. But the 133 million is still a budget so far. Why? Because we haven't even done the design yet. So all these figures will only be firmed up when the design is fully done, and then value for money and the negotiations are completed. So yes, the 20% is in line with what normally happens. The report actually captures all the processes that would be followed, including the performance security, to make sure that the contractor will do. Mr. Speaker, the need for this project has already been made clear, and we believe Sunyani, the population of Sunyani now is beyond the capacity of the water that is being supplied currently. But on page 9 of 13 of the report, we are told detailed BOQ will be developed after we give the approval. It's always argued, Mr. Speaker, in this House that sometimes maybe we need to see whether there could be another way of developers coming to the House with a bit more information, because it appears it's become a culture that because it's a 10-key project, most of the times we just come to the House with budget. So there's not much to interrogate at this stage. We all hope that other people at the Ministry of, or the relevant Ministry, Ministry of Finance, will do the needful by engaging the relevant people to do the scrutinization on our behalf. But Mr. Speaker, once again, I'll make the call that we give these approvals in good faith, believing that the entities will go and do whatever is needful, including due diligence and value for money. But I am yet to see a copy of any entity coming back to the House and say that at the conclusion of their design, approval, negotiation, this is it. Perhaps the figures we've been approving, they've been doing less than what we have approved, or more. We don't know. So it would be good if entities will come back to the House with the summary of what has took place after the value for money, not only for us to know what happened on that project, but to guide the House in the future. When we see similar projects, it gives members of the House an idea what things should be. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I support I second the motion and urge colleagues to approve this so that we can expand the water project in Sunyani and its environment. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Yes, Honorable Minority.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the motion on the floor. Mr. Speaker, I think this is very simple. By coming from the region and the communities that are going to benefit from this facility, Mr. Speaker, some are wondering why the increase in population in Sunyani from 2000 to 2010 has increased from 100,000 to about 184,000. Mr. Speaker, Sunyani is one of the most peaceful cities in this country. However, water shortage has been one of the bane of Sunyani's underdevelopment. Therefore, approving a facility and going ahead to approve the commercial contract to work on the Sunyani water project is a very good and laudable move. However, Mr. Speaker, I've looked at the terms, and this is the contract agreement before us is for phase 1, and the duration is going to be 3 years. That's 36 months, and that is for phase 1. The entire project is going to cost about $289 million, and this one before us is 133, and that is going to take us 3 years. My worry is, if we use this 133 million for phase 1, which is going to last for 3 years, then the remaining 156 is going to be for phase 2. Going through the terms and the contract before us, this phase 1 includes the feasibility studies, the environmental impact assessment, and all those things. The actual improvement in the dam, and that is the Tano River, is going to be under phase 2. So I want to use this opportunity to call on the ministry so that whilst we are spending 36 months in working on the phase 1, some work must be started in looking for the other 156 million to be able to continue, so that we don't work on the phase 1 by spending about $133 million. Then when we get to phase 2, then lack of or non-availability of funds will now become a hindrance to this project, because much of the work will be done in phase 2. And Mr. Speaker, beyond that, whilst we are approving this contract agreement, there must be a team to go and talk to the catchment areas, and especially the Tano River. Tano River. I'm saying this because there are some illegal activities going on along the Tano River.
Yes, Honorable, do you have any difficulty?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just to correct my honorable colleague, if he avert his mind to page 3 of the report on the scope of works for phase 1, it's not as if we are abandoning or going to leave the whole system unattended to. It's going to be attended to. So if you look at page 4, Roman 2, a new 55,000 cubic meter per day water treatment plant construction at Abyssine. That's part of expanding the old system to take care of the catchment area, whilst we look at phase 2, which will include the construction of the tunnel 1. So the existing system is going to be expanded, and phase 2 will take care of the tunnel river. So we are not going to leave it ajar and get the people stifled. I hope you are getting it.
Thank you very much. Honorable.
Thank you, my honorable colleague. Mr. Speaker, I was talking in reference to the catchment area, and there are some activities going on along the Tenure River. And the Tenure River is what is going to be used in implementing this project. So the activities of illegal felling of trees, the illegal galamsey, charcoal burning, and all those things happening along that catchment area, we have to sensitize the people against this. Because we are spending $289 million on such a facility. And they must also supplement by making sure that they complement government effort in making sure that such activities are done away with. Mr. Speaker, and I'm saying that once we are using 3 months, my colleague has spoken on that. The catchment area yesterday when we were approving the loan facility, people were mentioning that Chimay, Gosu are now being kept out of the old Bun Ahafo region, and therefore this facility, the committee must do other work in making sure that the people that are going to benefit from this. Because when you look at the beneficiary communities, none of them is outside the region. Chira, Insuatre, Dumasua, Wawasua, and all those areas are within the Bono region. So it comprises both Sunyani East and Sunyani West. And these are the communities that are going to benefit from this. Mr. Speaker, Sunyani alone can boast of the Sunyani Technical University and the Sunyani University for Energy and Sustainable Renewable Energy Development. Mr. Speaker, UNE and Sunyani Technical University alone have increased the population of Sunyani Township most exponentially from 2000. So when people are doubting why the population has increased from 101,000 in 2000 to 184,000 in 2010, this is one of the causes. And the Speaker, they keep on expanding. And don't forget, we have just approved of expanding the Sunyani airport and all those things. So population is going to increase densely in the Sunyani municipality. Therefore, I want to add my voice in approving this facility and also to call on my colleagues to start work so that we don't wait for 36 months, after which we'll be going to look for other funds. While we are doing this collectively, let's work so that we don't spend 133 and the 156 will now become a problem. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, it's a laudable move and I support the motion.
Any concluding words? Honorable Minister, you are done. Very well. Then, honorable members, at the conclusion of the debate, all those in favor of the motion numbered 11 say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is duly adopted. Resolution, item 12. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that resolution is captured on page as 12 on page 6 and 7 of today's order paper be adopted now. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I second the motion.
Motion duly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is duly adopted and the resolution carried. Yes. Do we go to the Honorable Learned Attorney General?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Item motion, that is.
Item number 13.
Item
number 13. 13.
13. You want us to start from 13 to 5? Oh, I see, rather. Honorable Learned Attorney General.
Right Honorable Speaker, I move the motion numbered 13 at page 17 of the order paper, that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 128.1, which require that when a bill has been read a second time, it shall pass through a consideration stage which shall not be taken until at least 48 hours have elapsed, the consideration stage of the Ghana Cocoa Board Amendment Bill 2017 may be taken today.
Yes. Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to second the motion.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, the motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Motion duly adopted. Honorable members, we move now to item listed 14, Ghana Cocoa Board Amendment Bill 2017 at the consideration stage. Item 14.
Section 13 of PNDC Law 81 amended.
Honourable members, for your consideration, the question is that the clause stands part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The clause stands part of the bill. Honourable members, the long title. Yes?
Mr. Speaker, you said the clause stands part of the bill, but there's nothing on the other paper, and we don't have copies of the bill in our hands as well.
Incidentally, Honourable, there's no amendment.
There's no
proposed amendment. Therefore,
you give me paper, give me some. Mr. Speaker, I believe when we were debating, they said the object of the bill was to redefine the word minister. And I thought after the consideration stage, if there's no advertising, the people you are holding, we should be giving some, so that we know what we are doing. Exactly.
if that which is originally stated will continue, then it is part of the bill. And that's why the question was put that way. Yes. Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, my understanding is that once we are at the consideration stage, it means there's a proposed amendment in respect of the meaning of who a minister means.
That's what I also thought.
Otherwise, then we have no business at the consideration stage.
What is on the other paper is what has come before us. Section 39 of PNDCL 81 amended. Ghana Cocoa Board Act 1984 PNDC Law 81 is amended in Section 39 by the submission for elevation minister of. Minister means minister responsible for agriculture. So that is all that there is for us. The minister now means Minister for Agriculture. What is the difference? Yes, honourable member for that group.
Mr. Speaker, so could we speak to that now before the question is put? The proposal, what you just read. Can we speak to it before we take the vote?
The question is that stands part of the bill. And all those in favor say yes, and that is it.
I was going to speak in favor of it, but give my reasons. But I didn't know that when you put a question,
You wanted to speak in favor.
Yes.
And give your reasons.
Yes.
It was actually taken for granted, but you may. No, I don't want you to speak for it and give your reasons. Oh no. There's nothing wrong with speaking for it and giving your reasons, notwithstanding the fact that it will remain part of the bill. Yes, but you may do so now. I love the debate, as I always say. So, honorable member for that group.
Mr. Speaker, personally, I think this is good. Yesterday, the principles were discussed. Mr. Speaker, I've been here for less than 8 years, and I just feel we over-concentrate so much power in the hands of the finance minister at our own detriment, including the detriment of this House sometimes. Mr. Speaker, cocoa is a factor of agriculture. Yes. Oh.
Yes, Honorable Dr. Akutose.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday we went through the second reading. A question was put, and the report of the committee was adopted. Now, my good friend is trying to take us back to the second reading to revisit the principles. We can't do that. You're holding us back. The report of was adopted by this plenary, which included that amendment. So I don't know why he wants to go back to that report yesterday. We had a long debate, and it was approved. That's why we are in the consideration stage, which the Speaker has put the question on. So let us make progress.
If I get the Honorable Dr. Well.
Mr. Speaker.
Wait, just a moment, Honorable Member for that.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I don't think what I was saying was injurious at all. I was just...
No, I want to make it clear that this is not the time to go into any principles again.
Okay.
We are at the mere consideration stage.
Mr. Speaker, I concede. I step.
Thank you very much. Therefore, the amendment stands part of the bill. Very well. Now, to the long title.
An act to amend the Ghana Cocoa Board Act 1984, PNDC Law 81, to provide for a new interpretation for minister.
There's no proposed amendment, but it's for consideration of the House. All those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The long title, as it stands part of the bill. That brings us to the end of the consideration stage. Honorable Leonard Attorney General, motion 15. Procedural.
Right Honorable Speaker, I move the motion numbered 15 at page 7 of the order paper, that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 131-1, which require that when a bill has passed through the consideration stage, the third reading thereof shall not be taken until at least 24 hours have elapsed. The motion for the third reading of the Ghana Cocoa Board Amendment Bill 2017 may be moved today. I beg to move accordingly.
Thank you very much. 2 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to second the motion.
The motion has moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Substantive motion, number 16. Honorable Leonard Attorney General.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the motion numbered 16 at page 8 of the order paper, that the Ghana Cocoa Board Amendment Bill 2017 be now read the third time. I beg to move accordingly.
Thank you very much. Yes. Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to second the motion.
Thank you very much. The motion has been moved and duly seconded. All those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
An act to amend the Ghana Cocoa Board Act 1984, PNDC Law 81, to provide for a new interpretation for Minister.
The Ghana Cocoa Board Amendment Bill 2017 has been read the third time and duly passed. Honorable Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we may take item number 7.
Item 7.
Yes.
Item 7, motion. Chairman of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that motion listed numbered on page 5. Other paper today be taken today. Now, Mr. Speaker, in doing so, I present.
Honorable, just leave that now. We are going to.
That's the motion.
Please continue. Please continue. And we have the report, so kindly give us what you want.
Okay, Mr. Speaker. Yes, the report. The Speaker, may I direct that the Hansard captures the entire report of your committee as you read and submitted, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable, at this stage, you request.
That's a request I've been said already. So, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable, let's put you to order a bit. You request, please, not direct. Please go on and make your request.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the motion number 7 on page 4 on other paper today. So move.
Yeah. Honorable, you will present your report. And I'm only saying.
In doing so.
In doing so,
Mr. Speaker, I present your committee report, but since the Hansard committee report all this time, Mr. Speaker, it is important to know that your committee was informed as of December 2019, the actual payment made to the ministry stood at 103,375,853 out of total allocation of 268,602,892. This represents 72% of the budget allocation referred. Mr. Speaker, your committee noted that in the year under review, the ministry enhanced on several service training and career development programs for staffs in order to strengthen the public sector management and oversight responsibility. Mr. Speaker, the committee noted that the provision of accommodation for the security services and the government's affordable housing project is progressing steadily. The 320,000 units for the Ghana Police Service and the 1,030,000 with the government's affordable housing is at 17% and 91% completion stage, respectively. Mr. Speaker, your committee noted that to protect lives, livelihood, and properties of vulnerable communities from tidal waves erosion, the ministry commenced the implementation of member of crucial protection and drainage works during the year under review. Speaker, the committee was informed that although the ministry was the stress of achieving all its proposal programs and policies outlined for 2019, they faced some challenges on the inability of the ministry to obtain guarantees for affordable housing. Your committee wished to call on the Ministry of Finance and Works and Housing to expedite on the intention of easing the formal financing improvement of the housing sector in the country. Mr. Speaker, your committee was informed that delay in the issuance of commencement certificates adversely affected the achievement of the planned targets and results for the year 2019. Mr. Speaker, again, the committee was informed that due to delay and non-release of budgetary allocations and delays in crediting the ministry's account, the ministry is indeed with contemplating comments. Your committee, therefore, Mr. Speaker, urged the Ministry of Finance to ensure timely release of the ministry in order to adhere all intended socio-economic infrastructure development and programs. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, your committee believes that...
In conclusion?
Yeah, that's what I'm heading towards, Mr. Speaker. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, your committee believes that the real estate sector can be a model for economic development and engage the Ministry of Works and Housing and the Ministry of Finance to exploit the funding sources to enable the Ministry of Works and Housing make proper impact in the economic development of the country. In conclusion, your committee also, after careful deliberation of the report, recommends to the House to adopt the report and approve the 2019 budget implementation performance report of the Ministry of Works and Housing. Respectfully submitted, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Yes, Honourable Minister.
Yes, thank you. Honourable Speaker, I second the motion, and I have these comments by way of contribution to the motion. Honourable Speaker, the ministry, that by the grace of God I happen to be the minister, is an infrastructure ministry. And the capital outlay for infrastructure rollout is not cheap anywhere in the world. And it requires that we find innovative ways to find good money to roll out infrastructure. I do not see how the ministry can even do, with the greatest of respect, 30% of its planned program if we are relying on GOG sources. And by reason of the limited financial space, we are postponing the prosperity that should near benefit of this country by way of infrastructure rollout. I'm educated that any nation that does not do massive infrastructure rollout cannot expand its economy. And that is a fact that all the economies in the world converge on. So, Mr. Speaker, my real challenge is that what are the innovative ways to find good money for purposes of rolling out infrastructure outside the ritual of waiting for revenue targets to be met by the Ministry of Finance, and then, like the village situation, during Christmas, you'll find a household of 30 sharing one piece of chicken. This is a situation and a challenge that we are facing. I have posited that if, for instance, cocoa matters to this country, and because of that we go to the bonds market and secure about $1.2 billion just for 1 year bailout in the issues of cocoa. It will make some good sense also to look at how you tackle, for instance, the mocking state of our drainage challenges in the entire realm. Some of these drainages that we see, with a greater respect, are so antiquated, and since President Nkrumah's time in 1957, I've had independence, some of these drainage, situations have not been tackled at all. Madam Speaker, if you do not take a quality decision that infrastructure matters as cocoa matters, and raise the requisite capital for infrastructure rollout, will be going at a tortoise pace, and it's expensive to neglect infrastructure. So these are my initial comments, and let me just touch on a few matters, and then I'll resume my seat. Madam Speaker, the committee has rightly stated that we are doing some serious coastal protection exercise. And if you pay regard to the page number 3, that is true. The coastal protection exercise, with the greatest of respect, is imperative because the coastline of this country is 550 kilometers, and the sea is our land. It is estimated that for a 5-kilometer stretch of coastal protection undertaking, it will cost this nation 70 million United States dollars. But if we are afraid to spend that infrastructure that we can have, for instance, reclaiming the sea and erecting world-class hotels so that people will fly all the way from other countries to come and have the benefit of the naturalness of the sea and the rest of them, we won't have it. What matters, we need to spend money. We are making some, we are doing some good work there. For instance, when it comes to the drainage challenges, we had a very reduced budget, measured against what was necessary. We've just tackling a few ones. The Elmina Fishing Port Rehabilitation Exercise, the President was gracious enough to do the salt cutting, and I am optimistic that that project will be completed in good time to help our people in Elmina and improve upon their livelihood, because essentially fishing is at the heart of their livelihood. Honorable Speaker, we are supposed to complete 686 affordable housing units at Koforidua, Wa, and Tamale. These were the affordable housing rollouts of President John Agyekum Kufuor. It is sad commentary to make in this august house that what President Kufuor started was neglected. When the Mills Mahama government had a space to govern Ghana, they violated Article, I think it's 35(7) of the Constitution. Let me find it and quote it for emphasis. The directive principles of state policy. So important. Yes, Honorable Speaker, yes, my memory is right. Article 35(7) of the Constitution, with your kind permission, I'd like to read. As far as practicable, the government shall continue and execute projects and programs commenced by the previous government. So what President Kufuor started, these projects were abandoned. 8 good years. They caused something in infrastructure rollout, cost overruns. And they are exposed to the elements and right now is going to take good money. At the last count, it was going to take $51 million for President Kufuor to complete what President Kufuor started in 2006. Governments are supposed to respect the Constitution, and that is what good governance is about. So we are doing our very best to have them completed. Honourable Speaker, I don't want to waste your precious time, but then there's one matter that is very important. Affordable housing rollout. I'll just end with that. The rest of it, we look at it. As for huge arrears and the rest of them, I'm saying that there's a need to find innovative ways of financing infrastructure. Infrastructure rollouts are not cheap. Honourable Speaker, affordable housing is a very critical need of this nation. The housing deficit, we are educated, has climbed beyond 2 million housing units. By some extrapolation, we are educated also that a typical Ghanaian household is made up of 5 individuals. So if you multiply 5 by 2 million, then we have about 10 million individuals who do not have the benefit of decent and affordable homes. This is measured against the backdrop that the population of our country is climbing to 30 million. So 1/3 of our good people do not have decent places of abode. Right, Honourable Speaker, how do we solve such a gargantuan problem? It seems to me that unless I'm grateful, and I'll wind up in a few minutes. Right, Honourable Speaker, the more keen your problem is as a nation, the more serious you should pay attention to the mockery. But we have it in our manifesto that if and when God should give us the grace to continue with our good programs, one of the things that will be uppermost in the mind of President Kufuor is affordable housing rollout. It will come in a way that we should spend good money. I have posited that one way to do it is to leverage on the pension fund, the people's own money, and use it for 2 purposes. One, construction finance, as well as what we call a credible mortgage arrangement. That is what we call the Singapore experience. Because Ghana, if we should have all the houses, but having regard to the income brackets of our people, they will not be able to own houses in good time. That is why affordable housing, in whatever understanding you want to have, is measured against credible mortgage arrangement. So somebody here who is working for Parliament can rest assured that if I sign on to the mortgage, within the span of about 20 years, I'll be able to be a house owner. This is where the nation should go. We have posited that there will be some palliatives in terms of we giving individuals money to rent places, and the monies will be paid to the landlords directly in our manifesto. But I want to submit that the ultimate aim of every Ghanaian, eventually, if it's only 1 bedroom, which is yours, you graduate from being a tenant to a landlord. That is a more glorified position. This nation should create the space for people to own houses eventually. I'm grateful for this opportunity, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, for your concluding remarks. At the conclusion of the debate. Yes, Honourable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion that this House will adopt the Budget Implementation Performance Report of the Minister of Works and Housing. Mr. Speaker, as a ranking member of the Works and Housing, we've taken key notice that the ministry has not been adequately resourced to perform its duty that has been given to the ministry. Mr. Speaker, you've noticed that on item 822 on page 6, the delays in the issuance of commencement certificate. This, Mr. Speaker, has resulted because the Ministry of Finance has not released funds to the ministry to do its work. And therefore, for the whole of 2019, the ministry cannot account for projects that it's supposed to do, but rather paying for debts in 2017 and 2018. Mr. Speaker, I overheard the minister saying that the previous administration could not continue the project that was left by the previous administration, that's Kufuor's administration, referring to Article 35(7) of the Constitution. And that is a claim that we are in breach, or the previous administration was in breach. Unfortunately, he did not admit that his administration, including himself, did not also continue the Saklimi project, which is also in contravention of the Constitution, Article 35(7). Having said that, Mr. Speaker, the Western House, or the housing sector, is a capital-intensive sector. And every government who wants to see housing delivery in this nation must put money into the housing sector. This will help all of us to reduce the housing deficit in this country.
Honourable Minister, do you raise the point of order or...
It's a point of order to correct an apparent misinformation, or if you like, he's not asking me issues concerning settlement. The reason why settlement has not been completed is that there's a whole criminal investigations going on. We've just secured the audit of the Ghana Institution of Surveyors. And now that the coast is clear, we surrendered the report to the CID. And it is clear that the defalcation is very huge, something in the neighborhood of about 140 million United States dollars. And after that, we are going to take steps to go and complete it. And I'm tempted to surmise that the president is very much interested to continue it. It doesn't serve any purpose not to continue with what President Mahama has done. After all, Ghanaians will be the beneficiaries of whatever you continue. So it's not the case that we've neglected it. But because of the criminal investigations, you need to proceed gingerly. And we now have a good time to complete it. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Yes, Honourable.
Mr. Speaker, as I was saying, the ministry has not been able to complete one affordable housing because Ministry of Finance has not released funds to the ministry. A few years ago, that was in 2018, I called for the scrapping off of that ministry because I do not see why the ministry will be there only coming out with policies without actually performing duties such as making sure that decent housing has been constructed for Ghanaians by reducing the housing deficit in this country. It is a shame, Mr. Speaker, that for 3 years, that is from 2017 to 2019, as we go through the performance, the ministry has not, when it comes to the housing subsector, cannot account for just one house being completed under the ministry, under affordable housing.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I conclude.
Honourable, please, a moment.
As I conclude, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable, please, 1 moment. Yes.
Yes. Honourable Speaker, it is not true that for the past 3 and 10 months now, we've not put up any structure by way of affordable housing. If my colleague pays regard to the report of the committee, that is a very respected member. If you look at phase 2, 3 of the security agency housing project comprising 300 page number 4, sir. Yes. You see? So, 320,000 units for the Ghana Police Service, which was commenced in 2018. During our time, is continuing. So my dearest colleague, it's not that we are zero rated as you want to portray. Sorry?
It's ongoing.
You didn't say that.
He didn't say
So
that.
we've not started any. Yes, that's what it says. Thank you for the correction, Honorable Speaker, and speak to the issues.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, looking at the work sector, moving from the housing sector, work sector, Mr. Speaker, the work sector includes the hydrological department, the coastal protection department, that all works under the work subsector. Mr. Speaker, there's the hydrological department supposed to supervise drainage works in our cities, in our metropolis. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, because of non-releases of funds in early release of funds in 2019, the work sector also suffered. And unfortunately, lives were lost because monies were not released. Mr. Speaker, as we progress into 2021, I wish whoever will take over that ministry to fight for releases of funds to be able to complete affordable housing, to also work in the work subsector so that we can alleviate, especially the suffering of our people who periodically and perennially they suffer from drainage works. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, at the conclusion of the debate, all those in favour of the motion say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is duly adopted. Yes, Mr. Whip.
Speaker, we may take the addendum paper, the addendum order paper, and lay
addendum order paper. Presentation of papers.
Order paper addendum.
Presentation of papers. Minister for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member, the Honourable Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation.
Honourable Dr. Kutu Osei.
Financing agreement between the government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Finance and the International Fund for Agricultural Development, for an amount of $20 million to finance the implementation of the emergency support to rural livelihoods of food system exposed to COVID-19.
The paper is duly presented, referred to the Finance Committee for consideration and report. Yes, Honourable Leader.
Speaker, we may take item listed 17, Complementary Education Agency Bill, under consideration.
Item 17. Consideration stage. Item listed 17, Complementary Education Agency Bill 2019 at the consideration stage. Yes, Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Plus one?
Plus one. Amendment proposed.
Establishment of the agency.
Yes, now.
Plus one, Mr. Speaker. Amendment proposed. Delete and insert the following. There is established by this Act a complementary education agency as a body corporate.
Honourable Member for consideration. Yes, Honourable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, may I inquire from the chairman, what is wrong with what is in the original bill? There is established by this Act a body corporate with perpetual succession to be known as a complementary education agency, because consistently this has been our practice. If you have departed, then give an explanation, because, Mr. Speaker, perpetual succession has meaning. When you say a body corporate, perpetual succession is to clothe them with a mandate to sue and be sued. So is it sufficient when you just say corporate, a body corporate? I just need further clarification. Thank you.
Chairman, please.
Mr. Speaker, I think that this new rendition has been taken over the last 4 or 5 bills that we have done. I think that Minority Leader is forgetting about what we have done. Because it is they, the lawyers, who said that a body corporate, yes, once it is a body corporate, it has succession plan. So that is the reason, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable
Mr. Speaker, I'm guided by the Interpretation Act that body corporate will mean that it has the capacity to sue and be sued. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Chairman, should I put a question?
I don't know, you didn't put a question to. Okay, clause 2, clause 1 sub clause 2, line 1. Delete it and insert the. And in line 2, delete movable and immovable. So the rendition reads, the agency may, for the performance of the functions, acquire and hold property, dispose of property, and enter into a contract or any other related transaction.
Are you reading I? Honourable Chairman, are you on I? Well, we have not put a question. All those in favour of the amendment listed small Roman I. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Something on the amendment. There is established by this Act the complementary education agency as a body corporate. The capitalization of the corporate should be deleted, and the smaller case replace it. Thank you very much.
Chairman.
Yes.
I do agree.
Did you get the point of your colleague? Yes. Honourable Minority Leader, will you be able to help? Are you?
Mr. Speaker,
the owner
small c, yes, and I'm saying I agree to it. I agree to it, Mr. Speaker.
Does the owner of the amendment stand by, of the objection stand by it? Yes, then please make it categorically clear.
I agree.
Honourable Chairman, you agree? You agree?
Yes, exactly so, Mr. Speaker.
So the rendition will be.
The rendition will be there is established by this Act the complementary education agency as a body corporate, with the corporate being a small c.
All those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The question is that plus 1 as, we've got other amendments. I still on plus 1, Chairman.
The figure II plus 1, amendment proposed, subclause 2, line 1, delete it and insert there, and in line 2, delete movable and immovable. The new rendition becomes, the agency may, for the performance of the functions, acquire and hold property, dispose of property, and enter into a contract or any other related transaction.
Yes, Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I support the chairman's amendment. Thank you.
I put a question. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. And the question is that plus 1 has variously amended stand part of the bill. And all those in favor say aye. There's one more. Very well, that is I, isn't it? Chairman.
Clause 1, amendment proposed, subclause 3, lines 1 and 2, delete immovable property, the immovable property, and insert land, the land. So the rendition reads, where there is a hindrance to the acquisition of land, the land may be acquired for the agency under the State Lands Act 1962, Act 125, and the cost shall be borne by the agency. Mr. Here we have to be careful when the new Land Act is signed or not.
Mr. Speaker, I will support the chairman's amendment, but I don't have my copy of the State Lands Act 1962, Act 125. But we better be guided by the words used in the State Lands Act. I mean, if you are deleting words, which words are used in the State Lands Act, which you are referring to in the third line, that will be problematic. But, Mr. Speaker, I will demand my copy of the State Lands Act. If the words used in the State Land Act are immovable property, then maintain same, because land is not the... Thank you.
We are not finishing this today. Please, you may conclude your exercise and then come back, because we are not concluding this constitution state today. If there's anything else, you have time to consider it at the consideration stage. Yes, Honorable.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, under the State Lands Act, as the minority leader referred to, the correct word used in that act is land, but not immovable property.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chairman, the Honorable Minority Leader is with you. May I therefore put a question? All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. And the question is that plus 1 as variously amended stand part of the bill. And all those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 2.
Objects of the agency.
There's no listed amendment, but is there any?
Mr. Speaker, with your leave and indulgence, even though there is no advertised amendment, it will be a matter of policy. But as I read clause 2, A and B, we are being repetitive. A says provide complementary education, and B says provide quality complementary education. Yeah, provide and promote. You are just playing with words there. When you are talking about the object of the bill, you are establishing an agency to supervise educational programs outside formal education. Summarize that in clause 2. But to say to prove complementary education and promote quality complementary education. In providing complementary education, there is a duty. Which duty is to provide quality complementary education? But Mr. Speaker, may I refer you to the memorandum which accompanied this bill. And it states in the very first paragraph, the object of the bill is to establish the complementary education agency to provide for educational programs outside the formal education system. That should be the object. You want to provide for educational programs outside formal education. That should be a summary of the object. But to just use provide and promote, indeed, then delete one of it. And if you want, combine the words to read provide and promote quality complementary education. I would further amend. You cannot have A and B. You just have one A, which you read, the object of the agency is to provide and promote quality complementary education. I so submit. But I'm saying the second part of my amendment, with your leave, is policy. What is government seeking to do with the creation of this agency is to provide for educational programs outside formal education, popularly known in Ghana as non-formal education. So find a way to express it in an additional clause of B. But to have A and B, Mr. Speaker, with your leave, A should read, the objects of the agency are to provide and promote quality complementary education. It's just going to be one. We don't need A and B. But I'm proposing that if the policy promoters of this bill are here.
Honorable, may I ask? We don't need A and B because provide is coterminous with promote.
Absolutely, Mr. Speaker. I take
Honorable, sometimes
Thank you.
You may promote something without providing for it. You promote it in such a way that others will come and provide.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Maybe the chairman will be guided.
So you can use both promote and provide.
Mr. Speaker, I disagree with him in the sense that to provide is different from to promote.
Yes.
So there are two distinct objectives.
Promote is the market.
Provide and then you promote it. And so I'll stand by what we have in the bill.
Provide, you actually put your hand in your pocket. Promote, you market. So let's make progress. Yes, Honorable Deputy Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the chairman says that he objects to the proposal from the minority leader. Honorable Chairman, the leader is not taking the promote out of the object of the bill. He is combining both provide and promote. That we don't need to break it down. In A you have the provide and B you have the promote. So you have only one. To provide and promote quality complementary education. This is what the leader is proposing, and which is the same thing.
So you are keeping provide and promote? Very well. The honorable minority that is agreeable to you now, you may keep provide and promote. So reformulate in a holistic manner the same.
Mr. Speaker, I guess that we can stand it down and then we come with a better rendition.
Oh no, Honorable Chairman. All right, Honorable minority, that can you have a formulation?
Because if I look at the long title too, there's also administration of it. Look at the title.
Honorable,
long
please,
title.
let's have to provide with
the agency also administer.
Mr. Speaker, I know that in these times we want to deal with these issues expeditiously. I'm only saying that provide and promote quality complementary education, a merger of A and B into one A for elegance purposes. Other than that, if you want us to...
No, it's not, we are only looking for a formulation now, we understand. Otherwise, we will go back into the... I hope, Honorable Chairman, you appreciate that.
Yes, you
Thank you.
I want us to stand it down and then we'll come...
All those in favor say aye.
Yes.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. Honorable, if there's no further proposed amendment, I will say that clause 2, as amended, stand part of the bill. And all those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 2, as amended, stand part of the bill. Clause 3.
Functions of the agency.
Mr. Speaker, clause 3, amendment proposed. Paragraph B, delete and insert the following. Provide complementary education pathways or opportunities in the formal education system from primary to tertiary levels for persons including out of school children.
Honourable members, for your consideration. All those in favour of the amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment on clause 3. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, amendment proposed. Paragraph G, line 1. Delete the orientation of. So it reads, advise the Minister on complementary education in accordance with national development plans.
Honourable.
Mr. Speaker, the chairman of the committee should be kind enough to give us the rationale behind the amendment proposed, because we are not at the meeting with you. So if you propose an amendment, give us the rationale, then we can follow. But if you just read the amendment and then without any explanation, you want us to accept it, Mr. Speaker, we are at us.
Yes, Honourable Chairman. Your justification, please.
Mr. Speaker, I think that Deputy Minority Leader doesn't have the bill, and so.
Honourable, whatever you propose, you must justify. You said something like deleted. Give us just a reason for deleting, and then you are talking about those who don't have their papers and so on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That's an undue indictment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But you see, if you look at the first rendition, the orientation of complementary, what is orientation? It's simply complementary education. So we are saying that if we say that advise the Minister on the orientation of complementary education, we thought that the orientation is so important. So we say advise the Minister on complementary education in accordance with national development plans. So that phrase, yes, the orientation.
Honourable.
Mr. Speaker, I support the chairman, but as the deputy leader observed, you see, there is a reason why the word orientation there is used. Probably if you don't like orientation, you could use rationale, because within our national development plans, there are persons defined in your clause 3A who didn't benefit from basic education to tertiary. So you are saying that you are to advise the minister on the rationale for complementary education. There is why we are doing non-formal education. There is a reason. So you are not just advising the minister on complementary education, but the rationale for it. For instance, that Makola woman has not had the benefit of formal education, but she wants to learn. We have seen an aged person, almost 60 years, reported as going through basic education. So the word orientation, I see no reason why the chairman wants to delete it. He can improve it by saying rationale, because some ministers will come, when you ask them to invest in non-formal education, they don't believe in it. Sometimes, regrettably, it's possible. So there is an orientation why we need complementary education. So the minister's orientation and the Ghanaian public, you are saying their orientation. The public must accept that we need complementary education to augment and to provide for those persons who have not had the opportunity for formal education. So ideally, you don't need to delete the word orient. But if you insist, Mr. Speaker, we may accommodate that.
Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, there is no need for us to go back to explain to the Ghanaian public why we need informal or complementary education.
Well, thank you very much.
This subparagraph here is talking about.
So to delete, all those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. That completes their proposed amendments for 3. Is that not so? Is that correct?
Item VI, clause 3, amendment proposed, paragraph O, delete. Mr. Speaker, the reason is that we are deleting it.
Oh, that we have done.
Yes. We are deleting it because, Mr. Speaker, we are bringing a new paragraph. We are bringing a new paragraph to replace that.
Very well.
Yes, and it conflicts with one of the paragraphs above.
And the new paragraph is
the same. That is why we are deleting it.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Honourable.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. The decision at the committee meeting, we agreed to delete O, but the rationale behind the deletion is that it is not for the agency to determine application and qualification at standard level. So I support the this, but it was because it was not their responsibility. Thank you.
So shall we continue with clause 3?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, so O is deleted.
And put a question on clause 3 as a whole.
Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence and leave, clause 3A, if I have your indulgence, provide functional basic literacy. I will insert the words education. Basic literacy education to disadvantaged groups. So it will read, provide functional basic literacy education. You see, you are talking of non-formal education. For instance, financial literacy. The Mokola woman needs it. That is education. So I'm just strengthening it with the insertion of the word provide functional basic literacy education to disadvantaged groups. That is 3A. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I agree.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. And the question is, clause 3, as variously amended. Honorable Chairman.
No, Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment here that is not captured by the other paper. We are adding a new sub-paragraph. And it reads, create opportunities in the formal education system for continuous education of learners, especially out-of-school children. What this seeks to do is that if someone is disadvantaged and is in the complementary education system and want to come into the formal system, there should be that opportunity for that person to migrate from the non-formal education system or the complementary education system to go into the formal education system, and there should be an agreed class that a person can move into. Maybe the person was out of school, so in that village, he is part of the complementary education system. Somebody comes to say that, look, I'm going to be able to sponsor you, and so he's able to go to school. There should be that for that out-of-school child to move from the complementary education to the formal education system, and that is why we are adding this new sub-clause, and it reads, create opportunities in the formal education system for continuous education of learners, especially out-of-school children.
Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, is it this agency that is going to create that opportunity at the formal education system? Because this is a complementary education agency. How are they going to create that opportunity in the formal sector? Is it rather the formal sector that must create that opportunity for the non-formal, which is complementary, to join? How can this agency create that opportunity?
Yes. It is, Mr. Speaker, it is the responsibility of the agency, of the complementary education agency, in the sense that it's you are teaching the child, and you know the person's standard, and you know his situation. So you must link up with the formal system to go and tell them that, look, I have this group of children who are now at this level, and they have this funding or sponsor, so we want them to come here. And then they will also be tested, and then absorbed into the formal system. So they must create that opportunity, and not the formal system. Because the formal system may not know the performance of those in the complementary system. That is why the complementary education system has to, agency will have to create that linkage or that opportunity.
I'll put a question. All those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. And the question is that clause 3, as variously amended, stand part of the bill. And all those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. 4.
Governing body of the agency.
Speaker, clause 4, sub-clause 1, paragraph B, delete and insert the following. 2 retired senior staff of the Ministry of Education, not below the rank of a deputy director, with considerable experience in non-formal education nominated by the minister, one of whom is a woman. Mr. Speaker, this rendition captures the import of the person that we want to bring on the board better than what is in the old. But the old one says 2 retired senior staff of the non-formal education division of the ministry responsible for education nominated by the minister. Bringing the gender issue here. That is why we are capturing this way.
Honorable members, for your consideration. Yes, Honorable.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I agree with the chairman on the proposed amendment, but to propose a further amendment. If you go to line 3 of the proposed amendment, we have considerable experience in non-formal education. I will propose that we delete the non-formal education and put complementary education in its place, because the bill is talking about complementary education. So I propose so, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman,
It hasn't caused any harm. Of course, we are talking about complementary education, so I do agree. So in place of non-formal education, instead of non-formal, we put complementary.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, looking at the old rendition, a reference was made to non-formal education. And I would want to find out why we would want to depart from the non-formal education, because right now, that is what we have in the system. And if we are talking about somebody with experience, we are now reverting back to the Ministry of Education when we have a sector as non-formal education. I would want to find out why the chairman is departing from the non-formal education. Thank you.
But you see, Mr. Speaker, the reason here is that this bill is not going to be made for today. Therefore, for years to come, if in 10 years you still maintain as non-formal, it means that probably somebody will be thinking that that experienced person should have been in the old system, which was the non-formal education system. So here, we are talking about anybody. In the status quo now, non-formal education is still under the Ministry of Education, the normal formal education system. And so you have people crisscrossing to non-formal education as well as the formal education. But in this bill, or when the bill is passed into an act, you are going to have that agency being exclusive. It's not going to be part of the normal formal educational system. So in future, a board member will have to be selected from the system, from this agency, somebody who would have worked there before to go on the board. And so it is important that we change the word non-formal to complementary so that it will cater for the future. Because here, if you leave it as it is, after 10 years, someone may say that you were not in the normal education, so you don't qualify.
Yes, no. So let's go by what the
Speaker, he's agreed to the argument. He's agreed. So we can put the question to.
Very well. All those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The second deputy speaker will take the chair.
So item 8, Mr. Speaker, clause 4, amendment proposed. Subclause 1, paragraph C, line 1, delete Chief Executive Officer of the Council and insert Director General of the Commission. So, Speaker, we are doing this because the head of corporate, that is Council for Technical and Vocational Education and Training, is a Director General and not a Chief Executive Officer.
Honorable Chairman, there was a change of baton, so you need to go over it again. I didn't hear what you said.
The Speaker, clause, that is, we are on item 8. Clause 4. Amendment proposed. Subclause 1. Paragraph C. Line 1. Delete Chief Executive Officer of the Council and insert Director General of the Commission. Now, that council in the regulatory bodies bill is now a commission. And the head of that commission is called a Director General. The new law that has been passed by this House.
Honourable members, motion is moved, is for the consideration of the House. I put the question. Those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. Yes, Chairman, you say a further amendment to clause 4.
Yeah, item 9, Roman number 9, clause 4. Amendment proposed. Subclause 1. Paragraph D, subparagraph RI, delete.
Any reason?
Yes.
Any reason for your proposed amendment for us to delete?
Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, I wanted to delete so that you can come in. Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, we are deleting that because the committee that there was no need to bring somebody from the Ministry of Finance.
There was no need for
to bring somebody from the Ministry of Finance, but there are other ministerial duties on the board. But for finance, we thought that it was important.
Honourable members, the motion moved is for the consideration of the House. Yes. Honourable.
Mr. Speaker, mine was on the one that clause 4, subclause 1. And I perused through the definition to find a commission, and I didn't see it. If the chairman could help me out here. 4.1, that was the amendment you moved just before this one. Subclause 1 of 4. You said that the chief executive officer must be deleted, and then now you insert Director General of the Commission. And I was trying to find out the commission. Which commission are you referring to? And it's not given in the interpretation session.
Yes,
in the old rendition, that is 4.1c, the Chief Executive Officer of the Council for Technical and Vocational Education and Training. To cut it short, that is covered. So it was a council. But in the regulatory bodies bill, the council has now been changed into a commission. It was passed in the last meeting.
Honourable member,
and
you got
the head
the
is not called
explanation.
Director General, not Chief Executive Officer.
Chairman, don't belabor the point. He was looking at this bill, but we are referring to a position earlier on be created and a law passed by this House, establishing the Commission for Technical and Vocational Education and Training. And the head there is a Director General, not Chief Executive Officer. That's what he sought to amend, which has been agreed on by the House. So we are now considering item 9. Yes, ranking member.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the chairman said, we passed this Education Regulatory Bodies Bill, Act. And in that Act, there's the establishment of the Commission for Technical and Vocational Education and Training. So the amendment is to make sure that the position of the head of that commission is the Director General. So the proposed amendment was to be the Director General of the Commission for Technical and Vocational Education and Training. That was the proposed amendment. That's what the chairman was driving at.
Yes, I agree with the chairman because it is just to conform to a provision of an earlier act that we have passed. So that is right. So now let's consider what he's proposed. The deletion of subclause 1, paragraph D, subparagraph 2, Roman 2. Yes, ranking member.
Mr. Speaker, at the committee level, we looked at the role each member was going to play. And we did not see that of a Minister of Finance very, very important over here. Some argued to maybe talk on behalf of the agency for financial support and all. We felt that once there is Ministry of Education over there, that must prepare a budget to be presented for approval by the Minister of Finance before it comes to Parliament. We did not need Minister of Finance rep or representative on the agency. That was the reason. So at the committee level, we agreed that we should delete it.
It's not for me to decide, but I thought there was a good reason to locate a member of the body at the Ministry of Finance for strategic reasons. But if the committee feels otherwise, we'll debate it and see. You know, you always need, in such matters, to have somebody located at the House of Power, which is the Ministry of Finance, to be able to facilitate a lot of the things that the agency will be dealing with. But I'll listen to the wisdom of the House. Yes, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Education has several agencies, and in all their governing boards, you hardly will find Ministry of Finance rep on it, because all their budgets form part of the budget of the entire ministry. And that is why they thought that if other agencies, which are probably even bigger than this agency, do not have reps from Ministry of Finance on it, there's no need to put reps from Ministry of Finance on this board as well. So that was the reason why we deleted that. The minister was part of the deliberation.
Well, as I said earlier, it's not for me to decide. I just raised it for the consideration of the House. Because what we're dealing with is Elementary Education Agency Bill. So it's not the mainstream, because the mainstream deals with the formal. But this one, as we said, you are converting the non-formal education into some, because the non-formal doesn't really deal with the lifelong learning. And so such a bill will take care of all other areas. And so it's a sort of complementary, yes, and so not mainstream. And you don't think that there should be somebody located at that level to be handling the Ministry of Finance issues dealing with it. You think that the minister and his bureaucracy should be able to cater for the agency. It's something you should think carefully about, but I'm prepared to put the question. Honorable members, those in favor of the proposed amendment, say aye. Those against, say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. We move to item 10, still on clause 4. Chairman of the committee.
Mr. Speaker, clause 4, amendment proposed, subclause 1, add the following new paragraph. One representative of civil society organizations involved in complementary education on a rotational basis. Mr. Speaker, we are doing this because if you consider the non-formal educational system now, much of it is being provided by NGOs, and they were not given any position on the board here. And even if we make it into, we turn it into complementary education system, there are other clauses that say that the agency will have to collaborate with them to continue providing the non-formal or the complementary education that they are doing. So we thought that they should have a space on the board, and they are more than 2 or 3, so they should come on a rotational basis. They have an association. That is why we included them here. So we say one representative of civil society organizations involved in complementary education on a rotational basis.
Honorable members, motion moved is for the consideration of the House. Yes, available leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the amendment made. Mr. Speaker, previous report on education has even indicated at the budget hearing of civil societies engaging children who are not undertaking formal education to complementary education. In fact, complementary education has been in existence. It's just the sustainability that was becoming an issue. Most of this supporting the complementary education funding sources got exhausted. So I believe that we will even have others already there who had gone into complementary education, supported, and they have experience already. So it's a very relevant amendment to make. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honorable member.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's in place, but I'm only wondering how the representative from the civil society organizations will be selected. Do we have an umbrella? We have an umbrella, a loose umbrella of civil society organizations. But is that, strong enough to appoint a representative? Or who actually will be determining who represents civil society organizations on this agency, Mr. Chairman?
Chairman, the issue I'll add to what he has said for your consideration is you just open it up. Civil society organizations, you're not dealing with identified ones or whatever. Shouldn't they have some level of recognition to be able to deal with the ministry? If we just talk about civil society organizations, it's a very broad term to cover all other private, individual, a few people, groups, associations, civil society organizations. Shouldn't they deal with identifiable ones that deal with the complementary education? Yes.
Mr. Speaker, they have coalition of CSOs in informal education.
So let's refer to that group.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
If we say one representative of the coalition of civil society organizations involved in complementary education, you are now zoning or specifically looking at a group that has been identified by the ministry itself, the sector itself, as offering that type of education. But this one is too open. Yes, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I think that we can continue by saying that nominated by the registered coalition of CSO. You see, that they are registered with the agency, with education. Before you can provide any form of education, you must be registered with the ministry. And so these civil society organizations are registered with the ministry. And they are mainly into non-formal education. So,
what is the rendition, the new rendition you are giving?
So I want the minister to get a name for us, right? Also, so maybe nominated by, that to end it, one representative of civil society organizations involved in complementary education on a rotational basis, nominated by, then the name of the
coalition of CSOs.
Nominated by registered
coalition of CSOs in education.
Registered coalition of CSOs in education. Nominated by the registered
coalition of
yes, coalition of CSOs in education. Did you get it right? Nominated by they what? They are recognized. No, but they do some form of registration with the ministry. They do some form of registration with the ministry.
Yes, Honorable Member Tamal Central.
Mr. Speaker, the idea was to create a platform for civil society organizations involved in the provision of complementary education to be part of the governing board. The idea was to leave the nomination of the member to the organizations themselves. They are not, the coalition is not a registered entity. The coalition is just a loose formation or association of all civil society organizations within the complementary education sector. Just like civil society, coalition of civil society organizations on the RTI, they are not registered. The coalition is not registered. Individual members are. So, but the way you have formulated it, it looks like you are going to register, the coalition will be registered. No, the coalition is not registered, except that the civil society organizations are registered. And they've come together and form a coalition. So I don't know how we probably can just say a civil society, you can say that one representative of civil society organizations involved in complementary education, nominated by a coalition, by the coalition of civil society organizations in complementary education on a rotational basis. Should be nominated by a coalition of civil society organizations. Complementary education, yes. Yes. So again, let me take it, Chairman. One representative of civil society organizations involved in complementary education nominated by the coalition of civil society organizations involved in complementary education on rotational basis.
So even you can stop at coalition, because you mentioned
That's quite a clumsy one. You are repeating, yes, involved in complementary education.
So if we are going to say that there's one, I repeated it because if you say the, it can mean, it only means the known civil society organization involved in complementary education. So if we think that we are repeating, we can reformulate it this way. One representative of civil society organization involved in complementary organization education nominated by the coalition of civil society organizations on rotational basis.
Yeah.
On rotational basis.
No, the rotational basis shouldn't come.
It should come.
No, why?
Because we don't want one, the idea was not to allow one civil society organization member to dominate.
Mr. Speaker, if we are saying this is a coalition that ought to nominate a representative, I don't see the need for stating rotation on rotational basis again, because it is a number of organizations that makes up the coalition, and therefore they would, from time to time, determine whether they should maintain somebody or they should replace some other person. After all, when we take a look at the other ones, local government, we did not talk about on rotational basis. It's one ministry, yes, but again, when it becomes a coalition, it becomes a unit, because we are making reference to a coalition, except to say that you are inferring that one particular CSO will dominate the coalition and be dictating to the coalition. If that's what we are saying, then it's a different matter. But if you say a coalition, it means they all have equal rights within the coalition, and therefore, if it comes to determining who represents them on a particular entity, the various members of the coalition will be able to decide that. So for us to again state that on rotational basis, I see it as needless. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Yes, Honorable Ranking Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I disagree with Honorable Kwashiga. I just want to bring his mind back to some of the acts that we passed recently, like even that of the universities. We have various teacher unions. So we put in the law or the act that on rotational basis. So we don't want any major CSO, in that coalition using its number to always get their member represented or put on the agency governing board. So we have done that several times with education bills, and we feel that that will be proper so that you can curtail the powers of some NGOs in a particular area from dominating the others. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I want to propose a new rendition for your consideration. If we say one representative nominated by the coalition of civil society organizations involved in complementary education on a rotational basis. What do you say to that? Shall I go at it again, Chairman? One representative nominated by the coalition of civil society organizations involved in complementary education on a rotational basis. That makes it flow better than the earlier ones. Chairman, are you with me?
Mr. Speaker, yes, but I think that is a bit hanging. If you say one representative nominated by, if you say one representative, it must be one representative of something before the nomination can come.
No, it goes through the sentence. One representative nominated by the coalition of civil society organizations.
No, but, well.
Yes, please. Chairman, Constitutional Legal.
Mr. Speaker, we get your idea, but it seems to me that if you say one representative nominated, that representative must belong to an association before that person can be nominated. So I thought that one representative of civil society organizations nominated by the coalition involved in complementary education on rotational basis. Otherwise, if we were to, your rendition is all right, but if we were to leave it the way it is, one representative of something might be missing. So we have to add one representative of civil society organizations nominated by the coalition involved in complementary education on a rotational basis. Then it will make it complete.
I was trying to avoid the repetition of civil society organizations twice. You know, repetition. Because when you say one representative of civil society organizations nominated by the coalition, you have to say of civil society organizations. You see? But if you prefer that repetition, I have no problem. We can say it. One representative of civil society organizations nominated by the coalition of civil society organizations involved in complementary education on a rotational basis. That is the rendition you prefer. Okay, I put the question. Those in favor of this new proposed amendment, that's the new rendition, say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. Yes, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, in my notes, I think that it is not captured in the other paper, but we deleted the Roman numeral 4 because it looks like it's almost the same as E. You see, employment and labor relations not below the rank of director nominated by the minister responsible for employment and labor relations. And then we also have E, a representative of the Ghana Employers Association nominated by the Ghana Employers Association. So, in my notes, once we are considering this, I think that we deleted Ivy. So, I'm saying that if you look at
you are proposing an amendment which is not on the order paper.
Yes, but they are almost the same thing.
No, Chairman,
Employment.
the proposal you are making is not captured on the order.
It's not captured. Yes.
Yes. Okay, let me listen to your ranking member, then we decide whether we should allow it or not. Yes, please.
Yes, so.
Mr. Speaker, as the chairman said, by my notes, we attempted to delete it, but later on, we rescinded the decision. So in my notes here, deleted, but I canceled it and then put mark. So we retained, or we asked that portion should remain in the bill. So we finally didn't delete it.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, then I agree to, we have exhausted amendments on clause 4. You can put a question.
Honorable members, the question is, clause 4 as variously amended stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 4 as variously amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 5.
Tenure of office of members of the board.
Chairman of the committee.
Speaker, clause 5. Subclause 1. Delete and insert the following. A member of the board shall hold office for a period of 4 years and is eligible for reappointment for another term only. Mr. Speaker, the reason is that when we are changing the number of years from 3 to 4, and we are also, of course, improving on the grammar and adopting the current rendition in the clause 5.1. That is why we have this new rendition.
Motion moved for the amendment of subclause 1 of clause 5 is for the consideration of the House. There being no consideration, I put the question. Those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. Yes, Chairman, you may continue.
Clause 5. Amendment proposed. Subclause 7. Closing phrase, line 2, at end, add for the unexpired term. The Speaker, of course, if somebody takes the place of a former board member, he only serves for the unexpired term. So we are adding that phrase to it. The minister shall notify the president of the vacancy, and the president shall appoint a person to fill the vacancy for the unexpired term.
Yeah, this is straightforward, so I'll put the question. Those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. I put the question on the whole of clause 5. And the question is that clause 5 as variously amended stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 5 as variously amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 6.
Meetings of the board.
Yes, Chairman.
The Speaker, clause 6. Amendment proposed, subclause 1, line 2. Before time, delete the and insert a. And Mr. Speaker, it runs through for one clause, subclauses 1, 2, subclause 1 and 2. So the second line of subclause 1 will read, dispatch of business at a time and place determined by the chairperson. And if you allow, we can go on to 2 to the same thing there on the third line. Meeting of the board at a time and place determined by the chairperson. So that's the next amendment.
Yes, honorable members, motion moved for your kind consideration. I put the question. Those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. Yes, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, item 15, Roman number 15, XB, amendment proposed, subclause 6, line 2, delete on the matter for decision at the meeting. Mr. Speaker, the new rendition reads, subject to this subsection, the board may determine the procedure for, 6. The board may co-opt a person to attend a meeting of the board, but that person shall not vote. The last words there, Mr. Speaker, are not important.
Honorable members, I put the question. Those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. Yes, there's still one proposed amendment. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, XVI, clause 6, amendment proposed, subclause 8, line 2, delete its meetings and insert the meeting of the board. I think it should be the meetings of the board. We're trying to get rid of the possessive word there. The meetings of the board.
Chairman, you have to look at your proposed amendment. What you want us to put is subject to this session, the board may determine the procedure for the meeting of the board.
The meetings, I'm saying, so I've added the word S.
You added where?
Yes. When
Where
I
is it?
added the word S, I added the letter S.
You added the S.
Yes. In other words, I've amended what is in the other paper.
Yeah, you didn't draw our attention that you were adding S to what is on the other paper. So I didn't actually hear the meetings.
I did. I
Okay.
added the S.
Honorable members, motion moved is for the consideration of the House. I put the question. Those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. I put the question on the whole of clause 6. Sorry, ranking member.
Mr. Speaker, kindly permit me to take you back a little on the same clause 6.
Clause 6.
6.3.
Clause 6.
3.
Sub-clause 3, yes.
Yes. The quorum at a meeting of the board is 7 members of the board. I am of the view that the 7 may be too high if you can reduce it to 6, because the agency board is made of 11 members, so that at least 50% plus 1, so that they can easily transact business. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I do agree. I also have 6 here. I don't know why it wasn't captured in the other paper. I kept quiet because it is not.
The committee decided it should reduce to 6.
Yes, I have
instead
it in my
of
notes.
7.
Yes, I have it in my notes 6. It should have been captured by the other paper.
Okay, so I have to put a question on that new proposed amendment. Yes, honorable member for.
Mr. Speaker, the issue he raised on 3, the quorum at a meeting shall be of the board is 7 members of the board, and he's proposing 6. But that is not my challenge. My challenge really is the repetition. The quorum at a meeting of the board is 7, so that we can delete the members of the board. Okay, even if it's seven members, even if you say 7 members, I mean, we can still do away with some of the words. That is my thinking. Because it's too many words expressing a very simple idea. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honorable member.
Mr. Speaker, I belong to the school of thought of brevity, but on this note, I would disagree with Honorable Koshiga, in the sense that if you say a quorum of
the meeting of the board is 7 members. 7 members of what? 7 members of the board. And this is how we've been crafting it. And for the sake of consistency, I believe it is very clear, it's very neat, very unambiguous and certain that we mean a meeting of the members of the board with a quorum of 7 members of the board.
Yes, quorum member for hours.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I think the argument he's making, the head note says meeting of the board. So anything you say is about the board. So if you say the quorum at the meeting of the board is 7, you don't even need to talk about a member again. What is all this? This usual thing that, oh, that's how we have been doing it. Sometimes it's dangerous. Brevity is also important. But I again want to raise the issue he's talking about. If there are 11 members on the board, the quorum can either be 5 or 6, not 7. It's too high. And I think that sometimes forming a quorum is the most important thing in holding meetings. If you don't form quorum, you don't meet. And you see the representation. It will be difficult to get people all at once. Sometimes, for you to even start a meeting, you need to have quorum. So let's reduce the quorum to 6 or 5. But I will go for 6.
The issue now to be settled is not on the number now. It's on the formulation. I think that there's a need to go the full hog to add members of the board. Because if we end at members only, is it all about members of the board at the meeting or of the whole board? That's why I usually go to go the full hog. And as the honorable member raised, it's important that there should be no ambiguity in the formulation. You see, so I am tempted to agree with that school of thought. But I can see you want to fortify your position. Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, my position is further buttressed if you look at clause 6.6. 6.6. The board may call a person to attend a meeting of the board, but that person shall not vote on a matter for a decision at the meeting. So we are not only talking about any member, but we are talking about a board member. That is why it is important to bring in a member of the board, but not to leave it as a member.
But what you just said is talking about co-opted person. It's not talking about co-opted member. So that one will not apply because he's not a member of the board. But I think that we should accept the rendition that the quorum at a meeting of the board is 6 members of the board. That makes it clearer, easy to understand and leaves no room for ambiguity. So please, I put the question on that one. The amendment is to delete 7 and insert 6. Those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. I put the question on the whole of clause 6. And the question is that clause 6 as variously amended stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 6 as variously amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 7.
Disclosure of interest.
There is no proposed amendment, so I put the question. The question is that clause 7 stands part of the bill. Yes, Chairman.
Even though there is no amendment on clause 7, I identify a word here that I don't think should be the case. Subclause 3. We are limiting any further course of action that may be instituted against the member, the board shall recover the benefit derived by a member. I think that should be by the member.
By?
That is 7 subclause 3 line 3. By a member. Should be by the member. It's already referred to the member already, who is deriving some benefit. It's a disclosure of interest. If you read 1, 2, it is talking about somebody who did not disclose interest. And so when you come here, I don't think that we should say.
Yes, Chairman, you are right. I've seen that.
So it's referring to the member.
Yes. Yes, Honourable Member, is a proposed amendment to clause 7, subclause 3, at line 3, delete A and insert the member. Those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. I put the question on clause 7, and the question is that clause 7 as amended stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 7 as amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 8.
Establishment of committees.
Yes, Chairman.
The Speaker, subclause 2 of clause 8, delete and insert the following. A committee composed of members and non-members of the board shall be chaired by a member of the board.
Yes, Honourable Members, this is standard. So I put the question. Those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. I put the question on the whole of clause 8. And the question is that clause 8 as amended stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 8 as amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 9.
Allowances.
There is no proposed amendment. So I put the question. Clause 9 stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 9 is ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 10.
Policy directives.
Yes, Chairman.
The Speaker, amendment proposed, line 2, at end add, and the board shall comply. The minister may issue directives in writing on matters of policy to the board, and the board shall comply. Very standard.
Honourable Members, motion moved is for the consideration of the House. I put the question. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I put a question on the whole of clause 10, and the question is that clause 10 as amended stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 10 as amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. 11.
After.
Clause 12.
Of Executive Director.
Clause 13.
Appointment of Deputy Executive Directors.
Honourable Members, there being no proposed amendment to any of these clauses, I put the question on the 3 clauses. And the question is that clauses 11, 12, and 13 stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clauses 11, 12, and 13 are ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 14.
Functions of a Deputy Executive Director.
Yes, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, clause 14, there is a proposal to add one more subclause. But before we do that, subclause 2. I think that there should be an insertion before the last word, functions. So I'm reading, a deputy executive director is answerable to the executive director in the performance of the functions. I'm inserting there, if the House will agree to that.
Sorry, I didn't get your proposed amendment.
Mr. Speaker, to insert the word there.
Where?
Before the last word, functions. So it becomes a deputy executive director is answerable to the executive director in the performance of the functions.
Oh, okay. You insert there between off and functions.
Rightly so, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Yes, honorable members, those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. Yes, now the new addition.
Yes, so we add in additional subclause. The more senior deputy executive director shall act in the absence of the executive director.
What does that mean? The more senior. What does that mean when you say the more senior?
Mr. Speaker, this has been a standard clause that we have been using.
Is it?
Because we have two deputy directors here.
So you have one being senior. But when you say more senior, I don't understand that. There are only two.
Yes.
So one will be senior.
Two.
There are only two. So when you say more senior,
Okay.
I don't understand that one.
Mr. Speaker, you're right. The word more shouldn't be there. The senior. The only two.
Yes, the senior one. Yeah, you know they're determining who is senior in the public service. Even the same day, one will still be senior to them. Honorable members, those in favor of the addition of a new clause, a new sub to clause 14, say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. So I put the question on the whole of clause 14. And the question is that clause 14 as amended stands part of the bill. If say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Clause 14 as amended is ordered to stand part of. Clause 15.
Appointments of.
I put the question. Clause 15 stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The clause 15 is ordered to stand part of the bill. 16.
Secretariat of the agency.
Yes, Chairman of the committee.
Mr. Speaker, clause 16, subclause 1, after effective, insert an efficient. Institutional wording. The agency shall have a secretariat for the effective and efficient performance of the functions of the agency. They said that's the constitutional language, so says the majority leader.
Yes. Honorable members, those who have the proposed amendment say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. I put the question on clause 16. The question is that clause 16 as amended stands part of the bill. Those who say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 16 as amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause.
Divisions and units of the agency.
Yes, Chairman.
The Speaker, the same amendment, line 2, after effective, insert an efficient.
Yes. So I put the question. Those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. Question on clause. And the question is that Clause 17 that stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 17 as amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 18.
I'll order to you next.
Clause 19.
Funds agency.
There are no proposed amendments to do these two. I put the question on the two. And the question is that 18 and 19 stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clauses 18 and 19 are ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 20.
Bank accounts of the agency.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, clause 20, line 2, delete board and insert agency. It's a very controversial amendment.
Why?
Because
Honorable members, it's a consequential amendment, so I put the question. Those in favor? Yes, honorable member.
Yes. I was looking at, what is it? Where it says the monies. I thought that we could just start that sentence by monies for the agency shall be paid into a bank account open for the purpose by the board with approval of the Comptroller and Accountant General, instead of the specific word, the monies.
Yeah.
Yes, Chairman.
The monies, because monies have been defined upwards, up there. In 19, the funds of the agent monies approved by Parliament. So now the monies, they are referring to the monies. So definitely doesn't go.
Yeah, honorable member, you've seen the point. They are referring to the monies have been mentioned, a number of categories from A to D. So it's referring to those monies. That's why they use the same D monies. Yes, please.
But, Mr. Speaker, even in that vein, it's implied. Because if we have already defined the sources of funding, and in subsequent narrations, we can avoid it. And I think that if we say the monies, I mean, it's tidier if you say monies for the agency shall be approved, shall be paid, blah, 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 because we have already identified. And so it's implied. Whether you take the there out or you still maintain it, I mean, but to make it tidier, sweetness of language, I think that is most appropriate to delete the article there.
Well, I'll put the question. The House that will determine. Those
Mr. Speaker, this is a standard rendition. When we come to all these clauses, this has been the rendition we have been using in almost all the bills or laws we have been doing now. We have defined source of funding, all classified as money. So when it comes, the monies must be put in a certain bank account, opened by the agency. And of funds.
I'm putting the question that the chairman has raised. That's what I'll put. When that is rejected, then we'll listen to him. Because his is not on the order paper. He just thought that it's neater for us to do what he's proposing. So if people support his position, they will not accept what the chairman has proposed. And so we'll go over it again. That's why I'm going to put the question on the chairman's issue. Those in favor of the proposed amendment by the chairman, say aye. Aye. Those against, say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. I put the question on clause 20, and the question is that Clause 20 as amended stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 20 as amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 21.
Accounts and audit.
Yes, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, clause 21, sub-clause 1, delete and insert the following. And, Mr. Speaker, the amendment proposed itself, I think that needs to be amended. The board shall ensure that the agency keeps books instead of keep. Yes, wrong or right. The agency keeps books, records, returns, and other documents relevant to the accounts in the form approved by the Auditor General.
Yes, honorable members, motion moved for your consideration.
Yeah, that's the new rendition.
So I put the question. Those in favor of the proposed amendment, say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. I put the question on the clause 21. And the question is that clause 21 as amended stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 21 as amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 22.
Annual reports and other reports.
Yes, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, subclause 1, lines 1 and 2, delete audit report and insert audited accounts. The board shall, within 30 days after receipt of the audited account, submit an annual report to the Minister covering the activities and operations of the agency for the year to which the annual report relates. Speaker, it is audited account because it is the board normally prepares a report based on the audited account, not audit report.
Honorable members,
receive audited account and prepare a report.
motion moved is for the consideration of the House. I put the question. Those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. I put the question on clause 22. And the question is that clause 22 as amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 22 as amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 23.
Complementary education.
Yes, Chairman.
Subclause 3, paragraph A, delete there. So we have the agency shall, in the organization and conduct of all forms of complementary education, take into account the following. A, access to complementary basic education. We are taking away the word there.
That is not on the order paper. Yes, it's there. 25. Item 25. Yes. Yes, I've seen it.
23.
I've seen it.
A.
Yeah, Chairman, I've located it. Those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. Yes, Chairman. We now go to 26.
XXBI, yes. Now we are still on 23, so subclause 3, paragraph E, line 2, delete dropouts and insert out-of-school children. The Speaker, that is how we refer them to. Out-of-school children, not dropouts. So the rendition read, the development of programs for specific groups, including out-of-school children at various educational levels.
Chairman, but you know, out of school children are not the same as dropouts. So you are not talking about dropouts. You are talking about only out of school children. Well, they are not the same.
But Mr. Speaker, it looks like out of school children is wider, broader than dropouts. But there are some people who didn't get the opportunity of going to school at all, and so didn't drop out. When we say out of school, they have been to school and dropped out. So
But out of school doesn't capture those who were in school but could not continue.
Yes, so they are dropout, but they are still out of school.
That is a special group. The dropouts are a special group. Now, what we're proposing, you read to the last end, and you see a repetition of after-school children.
Yes, I think that we have to.
Yes, read.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker. Yes, in my notes, I think I've indicated a red draft because what is in the other paper is not clean. So let's look at it. The development of programs for specific groups, including out-of-school children at various educational levels, non-literate youth and adults, and out-of-school children. Okay, it's appeared again. So we have to. If you say out-of-school children, it includes dropouts. So then maybe we can take the out-of-school at the end. We can cancel the out-of-school children at the end, or we cancel the dropouts.
What is the reason for deleting the dropouts? You don't like the term. Is it because it's distasteful to say dropouts?
Yes. That is what. Mr. Speaker, when we were doing this bill, there were strong representation from the CSOs who are on the field. So they were advising us on certain words. And that is why we made a case to bring them on the board. So they are always on the field, interacting with the community.
And we need,
they say they don't want the word dropouts.
We need a new rendition. Yes, please. Ranking member.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. We agreed that we will delete dropouts. And let me help by saying that the new rendition should be the development of programs for specific groups at various educational levels, non-literate youth and adults and out-of-school children. Bring it back.
The development of programs for specific groups, including, okay, the including must come, specific groups, including.
The including should come after the educational levels. Yes. At various educational
levels, including non-literate youth, non-literate youth, adults and out-of-school children.
Yes, honorable members, you got the
development of programs for specific groups at various educational levels, including non-literate youth, adults, and out-of-school children.
Yes, Chairman, I got it.
Okay.
Honorable members, this is the new rendition submitted by the Chairman. Those in favor of the proposed amendment, say aye. Those against, say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. Yes. There's another proposed amendment standing in the name of the chairman to clause 23. Yes, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, subclause 3, add the following paragraph: access to formal education. Mr. Speaker, we are adding this because I've explained this already, that someone in the complementary education may become so good that he may want to migrate into the formal education system. So there should programs to facilitate this movement or transition from the complementary education to the formal education level.
Yes. The chairman is proposing that we add access to formal education. So the complementary education could prepare somebody to access formal education. Those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. So I put the question on the whole of clause 23, and the question is that clause 23, yes, ranking member, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please, can you let us go back to 3A? We deleted the before access. We did not do same to the in B before access. So I propose that we delete the in B also before access. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, ranking member is right. Chairman, yes. Those in favor of the deletion say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The D in subparagraph B is deleted. Yes. Honorable member.
Mr. Speaker, I have a concern with F, 23F.
The enhancement.
The enhancement of disadvantaged groups. Now, if we're talking about developing programs for specific groups, including at various educational levels, including etc., does the E become necessary? Because even I find it a bit incomplete. I mean, to enhance the enhancement of disadvantaged groups, he would have captured that largely, because we are saying including. And so if there are other disadvantaged groups, as far as educational level is concerned, I'm sure they would have been taken care of by E.
Yes, ranking member.
Mr. Speaker, I think F should remain. If you look at E, the expression is the development of programs for specific groups at various levels. But this one is the enhancement of disadvantaged groups. Some of the disadvantaged groups could include the people with disability, among others. That is the brain behind it. So, Mr. Speaker, I feel strongly that it should remain as it is in the bill. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, besides disadvantaged groups, it's defined. It means groups of persons that experience a higher risk of poverty, social exclusion, discrimination, and violence than the general population. It may be in the nature of ethnic minorities, migrants, and so on. So disadvantaged groups are defined.
So how do you enhance them? How do we enhance disadvantaged groups? I may have problem with the use of the word enhance. To enhance disadvantaged groups, how do you do it? The English professors. Yes.
Speaker, if I may offer my thoughts. Now, if in E, we are developing programs for these specific groups, the intention of the programs being developed are to enhance these groups who are indeed disadvantaged. Because if we talk about people out of school, they are disadvantaged, they fall within the category of the disadvantaged. And if we talk about non-literate youth, they are also disadvantaged, the reason for which programs have been drawn for them. And so, and then we use the word including, which is to say amongst others. These groups amongst others not specified, which widens the net to capture be they people with disability or